Welcome back to Syndicate Competitive League 3. I am the studio host, Ari Danica, here with my darling commentators, Bacchanalian and Brent, along with our guest, Shadu, and we have a new guest, CCP Rise. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up? Doing pretty good.
Hey, glad to have you on, CCP Rise, game designer for Game of Drones. We will talk more about that later, but first, um, our dear EU team, I love them. Oh, dear Elendar and Selderain, cripple fights. Just the commentary was off the chain. I just can't. I love them so much. But we'll start with Brent. What did you think about the cripple fight, as Selderain put it?
Um, I think he's calling it a cripple fight just because we're all kind of tired of seeing that Tinker tank. We want PL to try something new. As far as the fight in particular, I think that they had the right idea as far as countering PL's Tinker. They banned Tengu Loki, which means that PL is predictably going to bring an armor Tinker. But I think that they'd have been better off bringing a new Geddon as opposed to a Typhoon, but that's really not DHB Wildcat style. But having a Newt bonused battleship that does, decent drone DPS, I think would have been a lot better placed in that match.
I just think after yesterday, with HP Wildcat flying around on those Burn Eden Ravens, running around the grid at almost 2 kilometers a second in a battleship, I saw the Foon and thought, okay, maybe he's pulled the same stuff he pulled with the Panther in week 2 or whatever. He's got some gimmicky super fast battleship and he's going to bump the logistics away from the PL team, and we see him get up to speed, max out at about kilometer a second, and it's I'm not sure that it was the right idea. Maybe they had an idea to counter that PL Tinker that everyone knew was coming, but it just wasn't a successful strategy to do it.
Yeah, and if they're gonna bring a Foon, they should probably bring a Foon that's a little faster because they need to be able to bump things. They need to have a better velocity going in there. I don't know if he didn't overheat his MWD like he should have when he was going into that. It didn't look like he really peaked at that much speed, but yeah, I think having an Armageddon there would have definitely given them better odds towards winning the match.
Now, we all talk about the Tinker Tank. The origin of the Tinker Tank, I believe, comes from Tinker Hell, from the
No,
new. Oh, what is the origin of the Tinker Tank?
Tin Kang is the usually the Logi pilot for Pandemic Legion's team, and I guess he came up with it, and PL just coined the phrase Tinker Tank from there.
Okay, and when did this Tinker Tank first come up?
Shadu would probably know that better than me.
Should you?
Oh, it was probably in New Eden Open 1.
The New Eden Open. Okay, so how did this Tinker Tank come to exist, Shadu? Like, Do you remember like the theory crafting behind it?
I can't remember, but essentially it had to do with certain things being kind of removed from the tournament for the purpose of making more interesting matches. But we found a way around it to essentially by transferring more capacitor to the repping T3, we were still able to maintain massive local tanks and thus essentially keep a small fist, a small ball of death that stays around together. It doesn't have a lot of DPS, but it has a whole lot of ripping power, and you cannot nude it because there's so many energy transfers going on to the Tech Tree logistics, and you cannot, well, usually you cannot out DPS it unless you go with a pure DPS setup like we saw Warlords bring against me on the first match of the day yesterday.
All right, now these the high DPS setups, is that really the only counterable, is that only the only way to counter these kind of Tinker Tank setups?
No, there's a few other ways. I mean, nuding, if you do it right, will also break it. When you break the energy transfer chains to the tech tree logistics, you can basically run it out of cap and thus kill it pretty fast. You can bump it, but bumping the tech tree is really, really hard. Usually we've had better success in bumping one of the other ships than whipping it off and killing it. You can also, of course, run ECM and just jam everything and win it that way. But jammers in the new meta game right now in the Odyssey changes really doesn't work too well, unfortunately, in this tournament setups. Dampening and out DPSing is far more reliable, and just good piloting usually wins it.
All right, and Rise, what do you think about these Tinker Tanks as you've seen them come into the field and use? Um, I assume you'll probably be involved in Alliance tournament. Uh, do you think you may ban this type of setup in the interest of keeping the tournaments interesting?
I mean, the Alliance tournament has gone through like several stages of sort of prohibiting elements or, certain amounts of logistics. And I'd like to sort of throw in that we've had this sort of idea existing in Alliance tournaments for quite some time. Like there was cap transferring Torp Rokes in like AT8 or 9, I think. And it's something that crops up whenever you prohibit like direct logistics. People look for ways around it, and cap transferring is often a good option. But one nice thing we have going, as like Fozzie mentioned in the off-air part of our chat before we got here, is that we have less of a problem with it in the Alliance tournament because we have more pilots on the field, and it gets harder and harder to maintain this sort of setup the more people you have. And it actually in the past has led to some cool matches where the core of the tank is able to sustain pretty easily, but it struggles hard to keep the like fringe members. Like sometimes there's frigates or something, and the match will come down to which team can like break through it by target switching and killing some little frig. And even though it's maybe not what people would, ideally have it, it does provide for some unique and potentially interesting matches. So I don't think it's something we need to worry about for the AT quite as much as, the SCL needs to be thinking about it.
I can remember going all the way back to, what was it, Alliance Tournament 4? I forget the name. Was it Hun, maybe? That one with a double Basilisk stealth bomber setup? I mean, we're talking, we see these tank setups going as far back as I can remember, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pardon me, I started coughing. Now, Rise, since we have you here, you are a game developer with Team Game of Drones. Now, what are you all working on when it comes to the Odyssey Summer expansion?
Well, it depends on which part of the team you talk about, and as usual, I'm sort of unclear about what I should mention, but I know that some people noticed on CC some new features coming with Plex for Odyssey, and it's possible that my team has something to do with that. We're of course focused on balancing. My team is actually small now. We lost some of our team members to another team for a while, and me and Ytterbium are a big part of what's left, and we're both pretty focused on balance. So he's been working on Navy battle cruisers. I've been doing battleships, and then as a result, like the cruise missile changes, the cap use for large energy turret changes. I'm also sort of involved in the armors or the resist bonus changes that Fozzie's doing. So a lot of balanced stuff. And then there's I don't know, there's got to be a couple other things, but not nearly as many as Fozzie listed.
All right. Now we have the bans for the next match, which will be Reputation Cartel versus Warlords of the Deep. And for Reputation Cartel, they have banned the Navy Megathron and the Proteus, and Warlords of the Deep have banned the Vindicator and the Macarial. Now the teams are on the field, but that is a secret that our EU commentary team of Elendar and Seldorain will deliver to you. But commentators and guests, what do you think about these bans?
Well, it's interesting to see all of the blaster bands coming in here. You have Navy Mega, Proteus, Vindy, but no Chronos ban. And that to me is just kind of, it's like, well, why would you ban Navy Mega and Vindy and leave the Chronos open? That to me, that's a better option. I mean, the points are a little different, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'm following what they're getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, without looking at the teams like I am, I think that overall, banning Navy Mega and Vindy kind of rules out the possibility of you getting that triple green battleship look of double Chronos Vindy or double Navy Mega Vindy, something like that. So I think that both of these teams didn't want to come up against super high DPS blaster boats with high strength webs.
All right, and we have to say goodbye to Shadu, so it was great having him on. Rise will be back again along with Bacchanalian and Brent. And since we have the teams on the field, I am going to throw it over to our delightful commentary team of Elendar and Seldorain. Thank you for watching Syndicate Competitive League 3. And here is Reputation Cartel versus Warlords of the Deep, semifinal 1, round 2.